Good evening, everybody. Tonight I'll be talking about UFC 313. This is still a pretty good card, even with the replacement of Dan Hooker um, not being able to make it because of his injury. So let's just break right into this card on the prelims. And the first fight of the night is going to be Jordan Santos versus Ozzy Diaz. Ozzy Diaz is he? Well, they're both young fighters, actually. Ozzy Diaz is going to bring the chaos and the power, where Santos, I believe he's going to try and wrestle a little bit, and he's also a striker too. But I, I think I think this line is a little bit wide. I think it should be closer to a pick'em fight. So this one's going to be a stay away for me. But I think that Santos ends up surviving the first round, and then after the first round, he ends up taking over and implements his ground game a little bit more. And I believe that he'll get either a late finish or a decision win, more than likely a later finish. So, but that fight's going to be a stay away for me. I'm just going to enjoy it. So, and then we go on to our second fight of the night, and it is Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Castaneda was actually supposed to fight last week, so he's still ready. Obviously, I do have a slight concern about a second weight cut in a week. I mean that could be a slight concern. I didn't get a chance to see how today's scales went and how he looked on the scale. I'll have to check that out later on. And well, anyways, I think Gutierrez is going to piece him up with leg kicks. I think he's going to also be the better striker. Castaneda will try and wrestle, but and grapple. I just don't think he's going to do very much with it. He has a tendency to just lay on his opponents, and he's not very dangerous when he's on top of them. So originally Gutierrez was a plus 100. When he was a plus 100, I loved him a lot, liked him a lot. But now that he's a minus 115, the only way I would touch this would be by decision at a plus 130. That actually seems to be fairly decent value. I also, obviously, because of that, I also like the over 2.5 a lot. At the end of the video, you'll see that's one of my favorite parlays of the night, is the over 2.5. So, and then on to the next fight, we've got Marion Santos versus Francis Marshall. Sorry about that. Santos has great leg kicks and also even spinning kicks. He's going to have some power on the feet also. He's going to be the better striker. So on the feet, Santos should really be able to piece up Marshall. So I feel like Marshall is going to have to implement his ground game in order to have any success at all. And I think for the most part, Santos is going to be able to stuff him. I don't think Marshall's takedowns are the greatest. I mean, they're solid, but they're not like high level yet. And I like Santos to get the win. He could even get a late knockout, but he's just a parlay piece at a minus 300 for me. And then we got next fight is going to be Alex Moreno versus Carlos Leal. Carlos Leal is coming over from the PFL. This is his second fight in the UFC. He got totally robbed in his first fight. He clearly won the fight, but the judges did not give it to him. So he's 0-1 in the UFC, and he's going to be better everywhere. Alex Moreno doesn't have any power at all. So if you like Alex Moreno to stay in this fight at all, you're better off just taking the over 2.5 at a minus 115. But me, I like Carlos Leal to get a second round or even a late second round, early third round finish, possibly even before that. So I like him inside the distance. I'm using him minus 3.5 on DraftKings as a parlay piece. Also, another way that you can get creative, because Carlos Leal is a minus 700, is on DraftKings you can do a same game parlay and do over a half a round, Carlos Leal on the money line, and it knocks him down from a minus 700 down to a minus like 370. That's not a bad parlay piece either. Okay, now the next fight is going to be one of my favorite underdogs. He's my favorite underdog on the preliminary card for sure, and that is Bruno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. Bruno Ferreira is definitely going to have the striking advantage, or excuse me, Bruno Ferreira is definitely going to have the power advantage. Petrosyan will be the better technical striker, though. But I think Ferreira's power is going to end up touching up Petrosyan's chin and putting him out fairly early. Now, if this doesn't happen, we could also see Ferreira implement some judo and wrestle a little bit, which if he's having any trouble on the feet at all, that's what I feel like he should do and has to do. Because Petrosyan is really, really bad off his back. He's not a good wrestler. He's not a good grappler. If he gets taken down, he's not getting back up. So that's what I would do if by chance you don't catch him. And you could really, I could even see a knockdown and then ground and pound and knock him out. Now I will say this: if by chance Petrosyan survives the first round and we get a second round, and let's just say Ferreira dominates the first round and the second round starts and Petrosyan's a plus 500, I will definitely be sprinkling a little bit on Petrosyan, just because Ferreira has about 1.5 rounds in him. At least I feel like. But I'm taking him to get a first round knockout, and I'm taking him plus 130 on the money line. Unfortunately, it's down to a plus 115 to plus 120, and I think it's going to keep on going down. So that's that one. And then we've got the next fight is Joshua Van versus Ray Chisora. Ray Chisora is going to try and grapple the whole time. Joshua Van is going to piece him up so bad on the feet. Van could end up with a knockout or 125 significant strikes. This is another fighter that has nasty leg kicks. I mean, the one thing that you're going to be seeing is that a lot of fighters on this card have really good leg kicks. It's not just me saying it. It's the truth. I mean, majority of them do. And this is another great example of really good leg kicks for Joshua Van. And he's going to be the better striker. I think he's going to be able to stuff majority of Chisora's takedowns. Probably not all of them, but majority of them. So I'm taking Joshua Van's money lines now at a minus 170. You could get creative and do another one of those same game parlays on DraftKings and go over a half a round. Van on the money line. It brings it down to a minus 140. I see it at least starting the second round. So I really like that a lot also. And I will be pulling these up at the end also, just to let you know. And then the last fight on the preliminary card is going to be Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev. Now, earlier last week, I actually put a wager on Kuniev at a plus 270. Then after doing a little tape study and then actually seeing what Kuniev looks like now, I totally regretted it. And it's, I'm gonna own it. I mean, I did it, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'm gonna try my best to figure out a way to hedge it. I haven't quite figured out what I'm gonna do yet, but I'm definitely gonna take Blades. I think if Blades doesn't have the success on the feet that he should have, and if Kuniev has a little success on the feet, then I think you're going to see Blades shoot and take him down, and he'll either beat him up for the whole round or he'll end up finishing him. I honestly think this fight starts the second round. So Blades over prop on his takedowns isn't a horrible idea, but now that it's up to over 2.5, I think if you're going to look at that, then you might as well just take the fight over 1.5 as a parlay piece, or even over 2.5. But his 2.5 takedown prop is even money. But I will be looking at a way to hedge this. I honestly feel like Blades ends up finishing him inside the distance, more than likely a knockout, which I think is a little bit above even money, plus 125 range, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what I like on that fight now. So you can scratch my Kuniev plus 270 little pick that I had. And then the next fight is going to be King Green versus Mauricio Rufy. Mauricio Rufy is going to remind a lot of people of Conor McGregor, unfortunately. But he's a great stand-up fighter. He's got a lot of Conor in him. He's going to definitely be the better striker. And he's also got some really good leg kicks. And now that King Green is 38 years old and he fights with his hands down here, and you just can't get away with that like you used to be able to. And I think Green's going to get pieced up. If you go back through all of Green's recent victories, they're all against gatekeepers. People like Jim Miller, like that. This is going to be Green's, I think this is going to be his 51st career MMA fight, which is just crazy to even think of. And I like Rufy to dominate. I think he's going to get a knockout. A knockout is now closer to a minus 110. I am using him as a parlay piece, which he's like a minus 450, I think, on the money line. So that's what I'm doing with him. And then we've got our next fight will be Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. We've got Lucindo, who is an up-and-comer. She's only 23 years old, and I think that's where my problem is with her, is her age. I think this is going to be a level check. Amanda Lemos is the underdog at like a plus 120. And I lean Amanda Lemos. I'm not going to put a wager on her, though. But I think she's definitely going to be the better striker. She's definitely going to have the more power on the feet. So if it's on the feet, she should be dictating where it goes. Now Lucindo is not bad on the feet. I just think Lemos is a little bit better on the feet. So Lucindo is definitely going to try and take this fight to the ground. And she may have a little success doing it, but I'm not even sold on that yet. I mean, Lemos did stuff Mackenzie Dern's takedowns, but I also understand those are two different type of grapplers. Dern's takedowns really aren't the greatest anyways. She's more of a submission threat anyways. So, I mean, I do feel like Lemos will be stuffing them though. So my lean is Lemos on the money line, but I do like the over. I'm using the over 1.5, which is really chalky in a parlay piece. But I also like the over 2.5 also. So that's that fight. And then now we're down to our last 3 fights. And our next one is actually going to be Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I bombed that last name. But anyways, I'm going to be on Bahamondes at a minus 120. I know a lot of people are on Turner and high on Turner, but I think his leg kicks and his high output are going to be the difference. He's going to be a high volume striker and high output. Both of these guys do have a chance to do a little grappling, but I see Bahamondes being the minute winner on the feet and either getting a knockout or a decision win. I'm actually leaning for this fight to go over, to be honest. So I'm taking Bahamondes minus 120. It was minus 130. It's coming down a little bit, so we have a little value coming back our way. Now on to the next fight is one of my favorite fights of the night, and that is going to be Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. I don't understand this line at all. They're basically basing this off of Gaethje getting knocked out by Max Holloway in the last 15 seconds of that fight. If you take that knockout away, or the last 15 seconds away, then that fight goes to the cards, and Gaethje ends up losing 48-47, more than likely. I see now these two fought a couple years ago. I see a similar outcome. In the last fight, Fiziev won the first round. Later in the round, he had a couple really good strikes and kind of knocked Gaethje off his feet a little bit and won the first round, which I agree with. And then Gaethje won the second and third, which I totally agree with. And I think that's kind of how this fight's going to go. I think whoever wins the second round is going to win this fight. And I'm putting my money on Gaethje. I've got Gaethje's got the nastier leg kicks. The Fiziev might be a little bit quicker, and he is, but Gaethje also has the better combos, and he could implement grappling if he needs to. I could definitely see another takedown in this fight later in the fight, like the beginning to middle of the third round rather than the end of the third round like the last fight. So I got a lot on this fight that I really like. I like Justin Gaethje money line at a plus 135. I actually even got it at a plus 140. It's now down to a plus 130, and I think it's going to keep going the other way. And then I've got the fight to go the distance. I've got a single on that at a plus 105. I like plus 3.5 for Gaethje at a minus 140. In all honesty, that's where I feel the line should be. I mean, Gaethje should be at least a minus 125 favorite, in my opinion. And I got a funny feeling this fight closes closer to a pick'em. So I like all of those. And I even have a sprinkle on Gaethje takedown at a plus 200. But I do know that it is now a plus 225. So I didn't get the best value on that. I do also have a sprinkle on Gaethje by decision at a plus 370. So yes, I have a lot invested in the Gaethje, but I feel that good about it. And then that's it for that one. And my last and final, the main event fight is going to be Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. I can't go against Alex Pereira. He's probably one of the greatest UFC strikers we've ever seen. He's definitely the best UFC striker right now. And he's got some of the nastiest leg kicks either. You know, being a champion kickboxer. So I can't go against him. Yes, his takedown defense may not be the best, but he has been working with the fighting nerds, which that's not going to hurt your takedown defense, that's for sure. It can only help it. So I think Ankalaev is going to have to shoot at some point. Now, how much success he has, that's another story. Early in like the first 2 rounds of the fight, I don't think he's going to have much success at all. And I think Pereira is going to be able to get back up anyways, even if he does. So I see this fight going deeper. I do like Alex Pereira on the money line. Minus 115, I got it. Right here's what I did. I did a same game parlay on DraftKings. Over a half a round, Alex Pereira on the money line, plus 110. I really like the over in this fight too. I prefer the over 2.5 compared to the over 3.5, but I don't hate the over 3.5. I'm going to be taking. It's either going to be an Alex later KO or even a sprinkle on decision. I think it's around a plus 500. It's pretty darn good value. So those are my UFC breakdowns. Now I'm going to be pulling up some of my plays. I'm going to pull up my singles first. And here are my singles. So my singles for UFC 313, which I've already gone over pretty much all of these, is, at first the Justin Gaethje fight. We've got everything on Gaethje. We got money line plus 135. We got fight to go the distance, even money, or it's probably maybe even a little bit less now. Then we've got Gaethje plus 3.5, minus 140. Gaethje by decision plus 370. I do not recommend putting money on every single one of these. Just God forbid it ends up wrong, because it is UFC. Anything can happen. And then we got Alex Pereira money line minus 118. I did put a half a unit on Ray Sarua under 2.5 takedowns, half a unit. This is now a plus 110. So I think there's good value on this. There's a chance he gets it, but I'm willing to roll the dice on it for, a few bucks. And then I got Josh Van money line minus 170, but I'm going to do it in the same game parlay over a half a round / money line. It brings it all the way down to a minus 140. I think that's tremendous value, actually. And then Bruno Ferreira money line plus 116. I got this at plus 130. It's now down to plus 116. If you want to just take the knockout prop, you can. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know the odds, but I'm assuming it's a plus 150 range. I don't see Ferreira winning a decision anyways, so that's not a bad look. Then I've got a couple parlays, and this first parlay is probably my most favorite play on the entire card. And this is Chris Gutierrez, John Castaneda fight to go over 2.5 rounds. The Amanda Lemos fight and Esmond Lucindo fight over 1.5 rounds. And Alex Pereira and Ankalaev over 1.5 rounds. I got it at a plus 103. It's still floating around at a plus 100 on DraftKings. I think this is a great look. I'm going to end up putting 2.5 to 3 units on it. And it's not, I don't always recommend hedging, but in UFC I do. If it comes down to the Ankalaev and Pereira leg, I'm 100% hedging. You can get under 1.5 rounds around a plus 260. So you could put a half a unit on that and either get your money back or profit 1.5 or 2 units, depending on how many units you put on it. And the whole reason why I'm saying this is because the last 3 weeks, My favorite parlay of the night has come down to the last leg. And 3 weeks in a row, it has not cashed because of an eye poke and the fighter not being able to go on, or just not being able to see, and then he gets knocked out or whatever it was in the last fight. So last week I hedged and I ended up at least breaking even, making a few bucks off of that parlay because I had a lot on it. So I do recommend that if it comes down to the last leg, you know, and I understand that hedging isn't for everybody, but I think in the UFC, you see so many freak accidents. You see so many eye pokes or groin strikes, or, I mean, what if somebody tears an ACL? You know, I mean, it's happened. Look at when Tom Aspinall blew his freaking knee out, you know, against Blades. You know, I mean, stuff like that happens. Sorry for rambling. And then my next parlay is going to be Blades money line, Roofie money line. Then I'm taking the security blanket on Van at plus 3.5. If you want to take Gutierrez plus 3.5, or even plus 5.5 or plus 7.5, and make you probably still be even money, I don't hate that either. There's a lot of different things you can do with this, but I'm using Van plus 3.5. I already like Van on the money line anyways, so this parlay is a plus 102. I mean, if you want to get risky and do Van on the money line, it would probably be closer to a plus 175, I'm guessing, or even higher. That would be, you know, really, really good value. You know, I don't hate that either. And then I've got one other interesting thing that I'm going to be doing this week. I did it on my own last week and I made out okay, so I'm going to run it back. And that is, I'm going to do my own version of a ladder challenge. Basically, what I'm going to be doing what I call a conservative ladder challenge. So the first two fights, so before the UFC starts, you go to these first two fights and you do a little parlay of Santos and Diaz start round 2, Gutierrez and Castaneda over 2.5 rounds, minus 130. You put $10 on it. If it cashes, you got 1776. If it doesn't cash, you're out $10. If it cashes, then you go on to leg 2 and you roll that $17.76 over into Marion Santos money line and Carlos Leal minus 3.5. That's also a minus 130. Now we have $17.76 turns into 31.44. Now the next leg is going to be Bruno Ferreira fight to not go the distance, combined with Van plus 3.5. And now we've got 31.44 that turns into 56.06. Now, this is at the point where I'm going to consider taking my $10 out, but I probably won't. If you take your $10 out, then you would be rolling over $46 on your next one, and you'd be out nothing if you lose. But if you don't take your $10 out, then you roll $56 over. Leg 4 is going to be Blades money line, Roofie minus 3.5, another minus 130. It looks like minus 130 is the theme of this ladder challenge. So then you got 56.02 turns into 103.72. Now leg 5 is going to be Lemos over 2.5 and Jalen Turner fight to start the second round at a minus 130. Another minus 130. And then on that one there, that turns 103.72 into 183.13. Now, leg 6 is going to be Gaethje over 1.5 rounds and Alex Pereira over 1.5 rounds, minus 103. And that turns 183.93 into 364.07. Now, mind you, if you do this, you can cash out at any time you want. You You can stop at any time you want. I mean, if you're happy with $56, stop there. You know, if you want to keep going, you're having a good night or whatever, keep on going. You know, it's per- personally, I know how I am. I'm probably gonna end up stopping, or I will take out at least like a chunk of it. Like if I get up to $100, I'm probably gonna take half of it out, to be honest. But that's just how I am. But anyways, those are my UFC breakdowns for UFC 313. I hope everybody enjoyed this recording, and I'm hoping I would like some feedback on whether or not you feel like my little recordings are getting at least a little bit better. I've been trying to work on my cadence, trying to work on keeping things flowing and knowing what I'm talking about and things like that. I'm gonna try to implement some more graphics, and in another few weeks, I'm gonna start editing these a little bit better. I have not been editing them at all, just to let you know. So what you see is what you get. I mean, this is what I'm doing. I haven't edited one thing yet, so it's definitely just a work in progress. And hopefully everyone checks this out and has a great UFC 313. Hope everyone has a great night.